Okay, we're going to actually dive into how to set a high quality appointment. Now, let's start off with the basics. How to dial. We want to be somebody a little bit different than what an average telemarketer would do. What does an average telemarketer do? Well, they dial one time and then they move on. And a lot of times you would get a potential spam on the other end of the phone, where if I'm receiving the call, it'll say potential spam on my phone and I know it's a telemarketer. So I'm not going to answer the call and I may even block that number. We don't want people to do that. Now, our numbers are real legitimate numbers, so they shouldn't show up as spam on the other side when we're calling that client. Now, the other thing that we want to do is, first of all, we want to ask the question to ourselves, what are we trying to accomplish here, right? Ultimately, we want to set the appointment, but that's not the reason why we're dialing the phones. The reason why we're actually dialing the phones is to get them to pick up the phone. Okay. So in order to do that, we get tons of spam calls these days. And so we want to make sure we do something a little bit different than an actual telemarketer does. In this case, a telemarketer calls one time and then they don't dial again for maybe another 24 hours. What we want to do is dial 3 times in a row. Now, sometimes you can break up that monotony. Instead of dialing one right after another 3 times in a row, you can dial twice and then wait 10 seconds and then dial a third time. Or you dial once and then wait 10 seconds, dial a second time, wait 10 seconds, dial a third time. But we want to keep dialing 3 times in a row each client. That way they know that, oh, this may be something important. It's not showing up as spam. Maybe I want to answer the phone. Okay, so it's important to dial 2 to 3 times every single number that you get. Now, when they do pick up the phone, we want to create a little bit of curiosity. We want to create a little bit of curiosity. Why? Well, if they're curious, they're not going to hang up the phone. We want to keep them on the phone as long as possible. If you can earn 3 seconds on the phone, that gives you 10 seconds that you've earned. If you can stay on the phone for 10 seconds, that gives you 20 seconds that you've earned. If you can stay on the phone for 20 seconds, you can earn 40 seconds. So the whole point is to keep them on the phone. And if you can earn yourself 3 seconds on the phone, then that earns you. The whole point is to keep them on the phone. And so if you can keep them on the phone for 10 seconds, that's going to earn you 20 seconds. If you can keep them on the phone for 20 seconds, that's going to earn you 40 seconds. If you can keep them on the phone for about 40 seconds, you've pretty much earned the appointment because you'll keep them on the phone a little bit longer before they hang up. So the key is to create a little bit of curiosity. So how do you create curiosity when you talk to them on that first 10 seconds, right? Well, for one, I'm going to use a few different techniques here to create that curiosity. What I'm going to do is, number one, let them know I'm calling them back. Number two, I may talk a little bit slow at first. And number three, I may act like I'm a little bit confused. Here's an example. Hey, Joe, just giving you a call back here. It looks like you submitted a request for blah, 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 blah. Hey, Joe, just giving you a call back here. Looks like you requested information about blah, 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 right? So I'm talking real slow, leaving some space in between my words, and I'm acting a little bit confused, and I mention that I'm calling them back. The whole purpose of this is to get them to think, who is calling me back? Have I spoke to this person before? They're running through their mind and their brain of, who is this person? They're calling me back, but who are they? I don't recognize the voice. They're trying to figure this out, right? Now, once I've had them on the phone for about 10 seconds and I explain to them why I'm calling, now I can speed up the process a little bit faster because now they want to know. And on top of that, once they know what the subject line is, the reason why I'm calling, they want you to tell them the actual reason why you're calling and who you are, right? So I may say something like this. Hey Joe, this is Shawn, or hey Joe, yeah, just giving you a call back here. This is in regards to the information that was requested about the IUL. This is Shawn Simpson. I'm just calling to set up a time for you to go over that information, and I can't do it right now. I'm in between appointments. I may say something like that, right? Now, of course, you're setting appointments for me. That's just an example, and you may come up with your own script, and eventually you will, and that's fine. We want you to come up with your own script. We have a script right down below on the second video. That's a simple IUL appointment setting script, and you can actually download it if you want to, and change it if you'd like to do that. But the whole point is to set high quality appointments. Now, there's certain things in the appointment setting process that you want to do. Number one, create confusion. Number two, let them know exactly why you're calling. Number three, try to get both people on the phone, husband and wife on the phone for the appointment. That way they can go over it together. And number four, nail down the appointment. Okay, those are the most important parts about the appointment. Now, what are we going to do to nail down the appointment? Well, we're going to get them to write something down. Number two, we're going to let them know at the time of the appointment to have a pen and paper handy. And the reason why is because if they have a pen and paper handy at the time of the appointment, when I call, then they're not going to be walking around. They're not going to be driving a car. They're going to be sitting down at the table with a pen and paper handy so that I can, so that they're ready for the appointment when I call. And that's the whole purpose. I don't care if they have a pen and paper handy. I just want them to sit down and be ready for the call when I call. And then the last part of nailing down the appointment, we want to make sure that they can give us a 15 to 30-minute window at the time of our appointment, just because we want to make sure that they're still going to be there, even if we're running a tad bit late. Because sometimes we do run a little bit late, but we want to make sure that they're just not going to give up and not answer the phone. Okay, so let me give you an example of how an actual appointment would go. I'm going to read right from the script that you have down below. Hi, Joe. This is Shawn Simpson, just getting back to you regarding the IUL information that you requested, the Index Universal Life Plan. Now, right here, they may not remember. They may remember. They may have filled out the form 30 days ago, 90 days ago. Okay. Now, if they don't remember, I'm going to say something like this. Just to refresh your memory, this is the type of coverage that the rich have been using for years to grow their money to supplement a tax-free retirement and protect their family. Anyways, I'm just calling to set up a time for you to get the detailed information you requested. Shawn Simpson is your IUL specialist. He's been designing IULs specifically to your needs for many years now. Unfortunately, he's in an appointment currently, or he would have called you. I'm his assistant. I'm calling to schedule a 15-minute conversation with him so he can explain in detail how it works, and if you decide that this is something for you and your family. Now, that's if they don't remember. If they do remember what the form that they filled out, then you're going to just shorten it up a little bit. And this is all in the script. And I'll give you an example. Hey Joe, this is Shawn Simpson, just getting back to you here regarding the IUL information you requested. The Index Universal Life Plan? Yeah, I remember. Maybe they just filled out the form yesterday. Anyways, I'm just giving you a call to set up a time to get that detailed information that you requested. Shawn Simpson is actually your IUL specialist. He's been designing IUL specifically to your needs for many years now. Unfortunately, he's in an appointment, or he's unavailable currently, or he would have called you himself. But I'm his assistant. I'm calling you to schedule a 15-minute conversation with him so he can go over it in detail and so you can understand how it works, and you can decide from there if it's a good fit for you. Can I ask you, are you looking into the IUL for yourself, for your spouse, or for both? No matter what they say, what time do you and the spouse get back in the door from work? If they're not married, just say, what time do you get back in the door from work? Okay. If the husband or the spouse can't be there, if the wife can't be there at the time of the appointment, go ahead and set the appointment anyways. And let's say they respond back and they say, well, 5:30. Okay, great. I don't have a 5:30. I do have a 6 p.m. available. Does that work for you and your wife? Okay, now here's the rule of thumb. Whatever they say, let's say they get back in the door at 5:30. You're not going to schedule the appointment for 5:30. Why? Because what if they're late? Okay. Now let me back up just a tad bit further. I'm not going to ask them, what time do you get home from work? I'm sorry. I'm not going to ask them, what time do you get done with work? Because they may get done at 5 o'clock. That doesn't mean they're home at 5 o'clock, right? So we're going to ask them a specific question to get a specific answer. What time do you usually get back in the door from work? 6 o'clock. Okay. Now, when we set the appointment, we're going to take away the time that they say and say that we don't have that. We don't want to schedule the time that right then anyways. So I would say, I don't have a 6 o'clock, I'm taking it away, but I do have a 6:30. Now, as long as it's available, we're going to try to schedule it exactly a half an hour after they get back in the door from work. Why? That's the sweet spot. As soon as people come home from work, that they're going to do their thing, use the restroom, clean themselves up, start dinner, whatever. And a half an hour, they're usually available, or they can make themselves available a half an hour after they get home from work. So let's say they say, or I ask them, what time do you normally get back in the door from work? And they say 6 o'clock. Okay, I don't have a 6 o'clock, or Shawn doesn't have a 6 o'clock, but he does have a 6:30 or a 9 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Which one of those best fits you? That's what you're going to say. Okay. So it goes like this again. What time do you usually get back in the door from work? 6 o'clock. Okay, perfect. Does the spouse get back in the door at 6 o'clock, or does your wife usually get back in the door by 6 o'clock as well? Well, she's usually home by that time. Okay, perfect. Well, he doesn't have a 6 o'clock, but he does have a 6:30, or he can do a 7 p.m. Which one of those works better for you? 7 o'clock. Okay, great. Now what you're going to do is nail down the appointment. Do me a favor, grab a pen and paper. I'm going to have you jot down his license number, so that way, since you're doing this over the phone, by law, you need to have that license number. Perfect. His number is 123-456-789. Okay. Now, since you have that pen and paper handy, write down his name, Shawn Simpson, and then the appointment time is at 6 o'clock your time, or whatever you scheduled that appointment for. This is going to get them to visualize the appointment. Okay. They're going to be able to use 3 of their senses to remember that appointment. They'll see it because they're writing it down. They're actually going to feel it because they're writing it down through their pen. And then they're going to hear it because you're saying it right in their ear. And then you're going to have them write down 2 words, important, important. You're going to say it twice. So they don't have to write down 2 words. They're just going to say the word, or they're going to write down 1 word 2 times, or they're actually going to write down 1 word, but they're going to hear it twice. And that's going to magnify in their brain that this is really important, right? So the first thing you're going to do once you get a time slot, let's say they say, yeah, I'm available at 6 o'clock. Okay, perfect. Grab a pen and paper. By law, since we're doing this over the phone, I need you to write down his license number. Okay, I got a pen and paper. Okay, his name is Shawn Simpson. His license number is 123-456-789. And then the appointment time is 6 o'clock tonight or tomorrow, whenever it is. And then write down the word important, important. You said it twice. Okay, got it. Perfect. Make sure to have a pen and paper handy at the time of our appointment, at the time of your appointment, because he's going to go over some important information that you're going to want to write down. Okay, great. And then one last favor there, Joe. If you could give him about a 15-minute window on both sides of that appointment, he would be very grateful. He may be running a tad bit late. It looks like he has already about 8 appointments ahead of you. If he does get done a little bit early, can he call you just a tad bit early? Yes, he can. Okay, great. Because talk to you then. Now, there's a lot that goes into this, okay? Number one, if you have them write down, have a pen and paper handy, they're most likely going to be at the appointment at that time, sitting at the table with a pen and paper handy, okay? They're not going to be walking around with a pen and paper. Nobody does that. They're going to be sitting at the table. Perfect. The other thing is that if you let them know that he may be running a little bit late because he has a ton of appointments, that lets them know that he's legit. He's not just some fly-by-night guy. He has other people that he's helping too. On top of that, when you ask them if they can give me a 15-minute window on both sides of that appointment, that lets them know that he may be running a little bit late. But here's the most important part. At the very end, you're going to ask them if he does get done a little bit early, can he call you just a tad bit early? And what are they going to say? They're going to say, yes, he can call me. Now, you just got that client, that lead, to say, yes, he can call me on the very last thing that they said before you got off the phone. Subliminally, they're going to remember that because number one, they wrote it down. They heard the word important. And the last thing that they said to you was, yes, he can call me. And that's how you nail down an appointment. That's how you set a high quality elite appointment that will show up. Then you're going to put them in the CRM as I showed you in the other video. And then it's going to send out a text confirmation. Now, if they don't reply back to that, your job is to go back before the appointment, 2 hours before the appointment, call them back and say, hey, I noticed you didn't confirm the appointment. Shawn has a busy schedule today. I want to make sure that this appointment is still good for you, or do we need to reschedule? If they need to reschedule at that point in time, you're going to reschedule the appointment and make sure they confirm. If they do confirm, no problem. I'm going to run the appointment. But that's how you set a high quality appointment for an IUL.